Thank you for joining us for another episode of Cryptocurrent. Just one quick reminder. Cryptocurrent is a cryptocurrency and blockchain education platform that's bridging the gap between the curious newcomers who are just discovering the space and the thought leaders who are shaping its future. All opinions expressed by Richard Carthon, the Cryptocurrent team, and their guests on this show are exclusively their own opinions. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Richard, the team, and their guests as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or to follow as financial advice. This show and any other Cryptocurrent production is exclusively for informational purposes. Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Cryptocurrent's Aftershock. My name is Stephen Miller, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Richard. How we doing, Rich?
Doing good. It's nice to see Bitcoin above 30,000. Ethereum's still on the struggle bus, but and the reason I bring those two up is because they typically lead the rest of the crypto market. So watching these pretty heavily. But what is exciting is this week is consensus, and I will be there because I live in Austin, and I guess somebody's going to be joining me out here. I guess someone who might be on this show, but we'll see. Should be a fun time overall, though.
I am really excited for Consensus. I've actually just last week booked my ticket to come to Austin on a very last minute decision. Way more last minute than I've ever been in my entire life, but I'm still going to make it. Um, we gonna make it. Wag me.
Wag me.
Yeah, but it's going to be really exciting. I'm very, very much so looking forward to it. And if you're going to be in Austin for Consensus, please do us a favor. Hit us up on Twitter. My handle is on screen if you're joining us on YouTube. It's at Steve Miller _PHX. Or you can get in touch with Rich at Richard Carthon on Twitter. But again, if you are joining us for the very first time today, maybe you've decided to tune in through your favorite podcast platform or here on YouTube, where you get the two beautiful people that you see in front of you if you're on YouTube. We would love it and appreciate it if you would subscribe and or make sure that you're following us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Well, on the Aftershock, we do a lot of news capture. That's our entire catch up on the day. We like to connect you with the news and the topics that are influencing the future of Web3. And today is no different in terms of the magnitude of that news. So let's jump right into it with this week's Aftershock. The Aftershock. So in this week's Aftershock, we've got a whole lot of Web3 lightning round news for you, but we're going to start out with the top story, which is historic legislation being proposed in the U.S. Congress by Senator Cynthia Lummis. So, Richard, this is arguably going to be landmark legislation. We've never seen anything of this kind before, and I have to imagine it's going to shake a lot of people up. So, right at the top, you have it including definitions of which coins are commodities, securities, stable coins, while also providing certain CBDC framework or central bank digital currencies and some NFT direction as well. What concerns me about this piece of news, as I'm sure it concerns a lot of people in the altcoin world, is that the people that worked on this bit of legislation, for the most part, are all Bitcoin maxis. That has typically been really bad news for anybody who is in favor of an L1 blockchain. And we'll get into that in another minute. But this new bill has some really far-reaching considerations in it. Now, in a closely related bill, another bill right now that's proposed will actually force U.S. Congress members to declare their crypto holdings over $1,000. Now, there's a reason we're bringing that up, but Richard, let's take apart the beginning of this. What is your vibe on it? What do you think about this legislation?
Um, it could set a really, really bad stage for a lot of altcoins suddenly becoming securities. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, as that begins to happen, you typically need to have a lot more. legalese, aka like you have to have like your Series 6, Series 7 to be able to, legally trade securities on behalf of other people, if you're kind of in that fashion, or if you want to, from a accounting standpoint, have a lot of other things that this is ultimately going to like be a huge damper on access for people entering the crypto space and being able to own crypto, unless you don't want to be in compliance with the SEC and have Uncle Sam coming after you. And I hope that they don't go and roll all of this securities. Um, the fact that they are even considering making Ethereum a layer one be considered a security could, again, this could shake up the entire industry if passed, if not really looked at with a fine tooth comb. And to your point, with the team that's working on it being having quite a few Bitcoin maximalists on there, pointing at you, Michael Saylor, and I believe Kalen Long is too. Ted Cruz is on the fence, but more of very pro Bitcoin. I don't know if he's a Bitcoin maxi, but all the same, when you have the majority of people working on this type of legislation, and uh, it benefits Bitcoin maxis to have all these altcoins become securities, because then all roads point back to Bitcoin, which that's pretty much the MO of a Bitcoin maxi anyway. All roads lead back to Bitcoin. But what's your take on this?
So it's important to understand first that this legislation is first being brought to the floor of Congress on Tuesday of this current week. This show releases on Wednesday, but we do not, in fact, record it on Wednesday. So some of the things that we may be saying right now may be a little bit tested because, again, we're going on early speculation as well as a rough draft of the proposal that leaked online. So, in the original language of the proposal, you saw specifically that all L1s, all layer one blockchains, Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, Avalanche, those layers, all of them would be deemed securities. Now, this actually goes directly against what a past SEC chairman has actually ruled on L1 protocols. He actually had already made the determination that they were not securities. So it's really interesting to me that they're actually reversing course on that and pulling it back. But to your point, if that happens and all of these things get deemed as securities, there's going to be a very massive widespread crackdown, and unless we start to get better legislation, a lot of these projects aren't going to even have the opportunity to lift off and bring to the people the innovation that they have claimed for so long. It could be really, really tragic for the US if this is over legislating just for the sake of benefiting Bitcoin maxis. Specifically, when I look at that, I'm really speaking to Michael Saylor, Caitlin Long, and I actually would speak to the fact that Ted Cruz is going to be in that category Bitcoin maxi. Why? Very simple. Right now, Texas is one of the top Bitcoin mining states. And that means that a massive part of his donor base is now going to be Bitcoin maxis. So he has to actually legislate with them in mind. He does not have to consider anybody else. And he has actually said in prior interviews that any coin outside of Bitcoin is outside of his risk profile. That is such a political answer of saying, I am a Bitcoin maxi. Do you read it that way or no?
No, that's pretty maxi language.
Yeah, I'm very surprised by this, but I think that what you're seeing at the very bottom of our write up there with regard to this separate bill, what's interesting to me about that is if they're going to pass a bill forcing US Congress members to declare their crypto holdings over $1,000, do you really think that they're going to be doing that for every single citizen? I would imagine so. So this is their way of trying to soften that blow, saying, "Oh, well, Congress is doing it." So they're going to try to work that same exact language into the crypto bill that goes to the floor of the Senate in the near future. So I think it's enough on regulation. We can move past it for right now, but please keep your ear to the ground on that story. It's a big one. In our next story, we have DraftKings, a very prominent sports betting platform, plans to add betting and payouts in Bitcoin. Now, Rich, I know that you're a little bit of a gambling man. Do you think that this is a good move or is it a bad move?
If they're paying out in Bitcoin, I think a lot of people are gonna take that option. Like, the could you imagine going to casino right now and they're like, "Now we can give you this dollar so you can place in your hands right now, or we can give you Bitcoin." If that was an option, I'm taking that option all day. Are you kidding me? Like,
But I mean,
it's not even a consideration.
for some people, paying out to Bitcoin is just sitting there and saying, like, all right, let it ride, right? I mean, in some way, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about it. I think that the payout option is the right way to go, but I think that the betting in Bitcoin option is terrifying. I couldn't ever imagine betting my Bitcoin. I only stack sats. I would never put that on the
I
table.
We're on the same page. So, as it relates to betting, yeah, if you wanna do risky business with that, have at it. I am of the mind that there's no reason you should be spending Bitcoin at any point in the short-term future. You should be stacking as much as you can, but hey, do what you do. But again, payouts in Bitcoin, that sounds awesome. I wish there was payouts in Bitcoin in almost all facets of life. Like, I would take that option every time.
Well, we're going to keep an eye on this one for you and keep you updated. In our next story in the Web3 lightning round, we have Chipotle, your either favorite or least favorite burrito restaurant, will now accept crypto at US stores. This is a massive piece of news because I know a lot of Gen Z and the millennial audience love Chipotle. And now, if they are kind of getting in the mindset of, well, not necessarily degenning, but saying that the US dollar is just going to continue to inflate and inflate and inflate, maybe it's time that I start moving more of my assets into crypto. Now I can actually pay with that crypto at Chipotle and get food. So I think it's an interesting piece of news. But what do you think?
When you have major brands accepting money that is outside of the US dollar, that is a pretty big sign of adoption to me. I mean, you are trust you this is a strategic investment in the future of money, and you're seeing more and more of this crypto adoption happening, in the retail space, and so they're saying they're accepting crypto. I'm guessing they're probably gonna take, like, Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe some others, but
Probably Doge.
probably Doge because, Doge, but it's just the fundamentals in crypto keep just absolutely appalling me in the sense of like how bullish fundamentals are. Yet the market, isn't telling the same story, but like it's stories like this that keep giving me hopium. What can I say? Like this is I still think this is pretty solid news.
Look, I think that actually it makes me think that I need to go back to the legislation portion that we just talked about for another second. Either way, what they're doing in Congress right now is not bearish for crypto. Okay, I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. I think
Yeah.
it's bearish for some altcoins if the legislation comes out the way it was in the March draft that was leaked. But if that language has at all changed, all of it ends up being bullish for crypto because we need more clarifying terms out there for crypto to move forward and to be further adopted by like bigger institutions. Like a lot of the big banks have stayed out of it because there's too much risk associated with getting into something without actual regulatory framework. So really important to understand. I think that more often than not, these regulations that come out, they're going to be bullish for crypto, unless you're in a place like China that chooses to ban it every 6 months. But that's a story for a different podcast
It's legal right now. For now.
next week. Well, our next story comes from ETH Layer 2 solution Optimism. Optimism is a scaling solution on the Ethereum blockchain that allows transactions to essentially go through much faster and be handled by what is called a roll up. So it happens off chain for the recording of a specific transaction. So the Optimism network officially airdropped its new token, OP, to users this past week. And I think it's a really big move because I think we're just seeing the start of L2 season starting to take off. You have a lot of other big L2s out there, including ZK Sync, which are planning on doing a token drop in the near future. It's something to be aware of. And I think that that is just about it for Optimism's airdrop. In our last piece of news, this is an interesting one. Coinbase is officially freezing hiring. And they've even gone so far as to rescind accepted job offers. Rich, this is not only like concerning, but it's also really sad. Do you have a specific
Extremely
take on this
sad.
one?
I mean, I was looking at a thread earlier on Twitter where basically one of the developers who accepted a job a week ago, I'm not even talking about weeks, a week ago, basically said, Coinbase was talking about, hey, we're doing these hirings, we just required all this money, etc. And then reverse course. And not only did they rescind the offer, but basically rescinded their visa, rescinded like all this stuff. So people were making life decisions, being able to like getting ready to move and whatever. And then basically imagine a week later being like, huh, just kidding. We're not going to do this anymore. It sucks. It's terrible. But what's, I think, even bigger for us to unpack here with this type of news. So Coinbase is a publicly traded company on the U.S. stock exchange. If you look across the U.S. Uh, companies, you have multiple large institutions from Tesla. I think even some other companies recently are laying off up to 10% of a lot of their companies, and they're freezing across the board. And this is aligning with a lot of news that is coming out across the industry, which is, doom and gloom, impending U.S. recession coming. Yet, when you look at reports like the job market, etc., uh, job market as far as employment goes is all time lows at like 3.2%, and they added another like 300,000 jobs and stuff like that. So you you have a picture that's being painted like here comes trouble, but the hard numbers that are coming in that the US was reporting on is telling a different story. So it's a weird time in the market, man. Like it's so weird.
Yeah, it is just a weird time to be an American citizen. Like, I know that that sounds super vague and like just kind of an out there statement, but it's just kind of true. Like, you don't know what's really going on behind the scenes because so many of our like governmental metrics are just fluff. They're totally skewed. I mean, we're not reporting accurate unemployment numbers to begin with, right? So the fact that if we have the best unemployment rate in history right now, but we have Coinbase freezing jobs and then rescinding offers, it should tell you something. So think a little bit deeper, be willing to question things, and that will lead us into last week in the metaverse, where we talk a little bit more about the NFT related news from the past week that mattered most. Now, this first story probably is going to be the top story for a hot minute here. Earlier on in the year, we brought you a news story saying that Nate Chastain, who is the head of product at OpenSea, the biggest NFT marketplace on the planet, was officially terminated for what they called, for lack of a better phrase, insider trading. Well, not only was he fired from OpenSea, but now there's actually a DOJ case against him that is charging him with wire fraud and money laundering all around this specific instance where he was fired from OpenSea. I am absolutely fascinated by this one because there's a lot of me that sits here and says, um, that's literally all we do. All of us are just going on insider information as to what is the next alpha play, what is the next NFT that's going to pump. Like, I don't know how that's actually insider trading because at the same time, NFTs, in my opinion, are not securities, right? In a lot of cases, they are collectibles, which we've seen basically, through the trading card market and everything else out there pump over time, just like how baseball cards of high rarity have pumped in the past, and then also, fluctuate back down in price. I'm curious how they choose to spin this, but I know you've read a little bit deeper into this, so why don't you give us your take?
So my hot take on this is the reason why this is different is that so OpenSea is not a public facing company. However, when you look at the company itself and you look at the money that flows through OpenSea, um, I believe it's like 80% market share. And we share a lot of numbers of how they're making, billions of dollars in transactions a month, et cetera. Now, because this is such a public facing company, and oh, that's right, the founders are doxxed, there's a higher expectation to work with morality and ethics. Now, with how this person got uh, found and for the insider trading and anti-money well, it's not really anti-money laundering, but like insider trading was that he would discover these NFTs that would be featured on the homepage of OpenSea. And the homepage of OpenSea gets viewed by a lot of people all across the world. And people typically go there to get their information. And then typically, if you land on the homepage of OpenSea when something first launches, it pumps, it goes up in value. So he would know what would come out the next day and would go buy a bunch of them for cheap and get rare ones. And then basically the next day after it pumps, he would then go sell it. I think all in all, he made roughly around 67, $70,000 or something like that. But the difference was that he knew what was going to happen. Like it wasn't like a, oh, this might happen. Like he clearly knew. And so by OpenSea exposing their, their employee of being like, hey, he did this. This is why we got rid of him, it kind of set him up to be a target. Where the difference, what you were talking about, Stephen, yes, we are all trying to find alpha. Yes, we are all trying to do whatever, but we also don't have a website and a means to buy an NFT, put it on a homepage of our website, have it basically jump up, 10x and a couple of hours sell it and rinse repeat. I think that's where the big difference is here.
Yeah, and I mean the biggest trick is that as head of product, he's the insider. He knows exactly what's going to go up on the homepage when. But the real thing to me about this that I think is a little bit sketchy in terms of the case that they have against him is just the fact that OpenSea could make a case that more of, well, I mean, not OpenSea, he could make a case as head of product that OpenSea algorithmically chooses a certain number of NFT projects to go onto the home screen, which he just flat out doesn't know. But he managed to pick well across a couple of them that he may or may not have known, were coming on market. So there may be a case to be pled there, but I think at the very least, like there's a very high chance that this guy ends up going down for money laundering. I'm not sure how they're making a case for wire fraud, but if they're going to press for something on insider trading, that's probably how they're going to get him. So we'll have to keep you updated on that story, but it's definitely a very big one and could set some big precedent. Next up, Kanye. You may have heard of him. He has officially trademarked the Yeezy brand for NFT and metaverse use cases. Not just that story in terms of IP this week, we also have another big IP set from DeLorean, the car from Back to the Future. The DeLorean Motor Company has also revealed a plan to enter the metaverse by filing trademark applications for metaverse and NFTs. This is so flipping cool. I can't wait. That is the entire story. I can't wait. Come
Eh,
on, dude. Are you telling me that you won't want to go around the metaverse in your own DeLorean?
I
Like,
mean,
you lied.
yeah, but everybody like when you look at the new trademarks and patents and all that kind of stuff, so much of it's going into the metaverse. It's crazy, man. Like Web3 and where this is headed, everyone's trying to get that IP ready.
Yo, real talk. Have you seen the new DeLorean that they're trying to deliver?
No,
Oh man,
is
you
that
should.
what's on screen right now?
That's what's on screen right now. So if you're joining us over on YouTube, you get to see this sexy, sexy DeLorean that they're
Oof.
trying to roll out right now. Dual gold wing doors, similar type of inside layout, but like completely updated for the 21st century. Not that it wasn't trying to be futuristic back in the day, but it's leveled up in a big way and it's all electric. So to
Wow.
me, I see this as a really cool thing, just generally speaking. But I also think this is big for the metaverse because I think that every single, you know, 80s nostalgia person out there wants to see this and will use the DeLorean as their gateway to get into the metaverse. Again, just my take. I will be driving one very, very soon. So our next story comes from gem.xyz. They've been all over the news lately, dude. I don't even know like how they managed to get the PR person that they have working for them, but
They're crushing it.
the Gem stories have been out of this world. So Gem announced live mode. So essentially they're going to be integrating a live feed of items that are currently being purchased. To the typical consumer, this means diddly squat, right? There's nothing, new to this. But who would care about this news is the advanced trader, because the advanced trader is typically utilizing tools that will allow them to snipe transactions that are in the process of being made. So if you see something that's in the process of being purchased and you evaluate it quickly enough, you can immediately set higher gas and just take the product out from underneath the person who's trying to buy it. Um, Goes back to NFT ethics, right? Is that ethical? Probably not. But I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, man. That's a tough one, right? Like, so if they have a price on there and you see someone's trying to scoop it up, and you're just like, "Look, I'm willing to spend more spend more money to have make it happen faster." Ah, man, that's where it gets tough, right? Like, could you imagine getting in your cart for, tickets to like a show, and you get in time, and now you have your 5 minutes, but someone all of a sudden all the tickets are gone because you didn't purchase, and instead of 5 minutes it's gone in 30 seconds, right? Like
You mean like every single concert of a popular musician in the last 10 years?
I don't know, man. It's a little different though, right? Like I don't know.
Look,
I
I mean, at least from where I'm sitting, like I'm still astonished that you got Kendrick tickets. Yeah,
I move quickly.
humble brag, right? Um, from a friend. But yeah, look, I think that this is exactly what Gem is positioning themselves to be. They want to be the advanced traders platform.
Yeah,
They're
especially
aggregating. They're
NFTs.
now aggregating NFT sales from OpenSea, LooksRare, X2Y2, and one other exchange that I think is just not really, impacting the overall market cap. But the point is that they are aggregating all those sales into one place, so you can shop every single exchange at one immediate time. That's pretty novel. I really love it. I love shopping through gem.xyz. And I think this just gives more people another reason to say screw OpenSea and screw Coinbase NFT. So I'm excited for it. I'm going to try it out. I'm probably not going to get any of the NFTs that I want, and I'm just going to end up paying transaction fees. Next story.
Know how that
Our-
goes.
yeah, right. Dude, I've spent so much gas in the last like year and a half.
Oh, dude, it hurts my heart.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's ugly. Do you remember we were reporting on it like right at the end of it may have been like right at the end of September or October. Um fees.wtf. They were doing an airdrop for their WTF token and
Yeah,
it just tanked immediately. It's like, yeah, that's the story of Ethereum gas fees right there.
right there, just like that, and it's gone.
Absolutely wild. And it's gone. Yeah. So on to our next story, because we can joke around about this stuff all day long. It comes from Cool Cats. So Cool Cats, one of my personal NFT projects of like choice. I love the project. Full transparency, I don't own any. I because I can't afford it. It's just ridiculous. Well, they've officially kind of renewed their focus on intellectual property and their community with the introduction of new cool verse characters. I think it's brilliant. I think that they're probably going to end up oversaturating the market a little bit for like their specific niche, but to see that they've got 5 brand new characters ready to roll and implement right alongside their Blue Cat makes me think that they're pretty much ready for prime time. I mean, despite not having a new CEO in charge. What do you think about it?
It's where a lot of these NFTs are trying to go for larger plays, right? Where you can start to get these, cartoon TV deals, or you can have these meta plays where you can now have an entire collection of all these people being in the same verse. So I think this is a interesting play, and I'm curious to see like where they take it. But I mean, I easily could see this like being like a cartoon, right?
This is one of my top 2 project picks for projects that have IP that could easily be converted into a new show.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's really cute. It falls into the cute meta trend. It has a storytelling component built in, and I would be really surprised if we don't see something more dynamic happen under a new CEO soon. Clearly, the project still has good leadership. It's not exclusively running under a CEO or anything, but it's clever. It's cute. It's an expansion. I mean, they've got a little bird. What would you say the green guy is? Is that like a some type of weird sloth or what?
Kind of, I don't know, it's like a Teletubby without the thing at the top.
Yeah, very weird, but like still it fits in. The little bird to me is like the one that I would want to go after. But then you've got either that's like a female cat or a bunny, and then
Yeah,
you have some type of bird and what I think might be a llama. So I mean, you've got different like characteristics to each of these pieces that arguably you'd want to own. You'd want to have one of each, or like have your own little collection. To me, it rings back to like Beanie Babies, but Beanie
yeah.
Babies that you can make a show out of. The other one that I'm really high on right now is OCM Karma, which is coming later on this month on the 29th. That one could be like a world breaker, in my opinion. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. But let's move into our final story for last week in the metaverse today. And that comes from a couple of really big projects. So the projects that we're speaking about now are Cyberkongs and Chimpers, but as well as those two, you also have DC Comics, all of which have launched independent marketplaces for their respective holders. This is going to become a massive trend. And I'm just telling you that right now. If if we have a chance, or even a slight hope that we're going to see a world where we see a feeless marketplace kind of take over, or a marketplace that doesn't take a massive transaction fee for every single unit sold, it's going to be through something like this. So because all of them have their own independent marketplaces, they can allow for their users to directly sell through those platforms without having to spend any additional money towards the actual, marketplace. So I think this is a very big deal personally, but I think it's the beginning. Do you think that this is actually going to be the future of NFT transactions for specific collections?
Um, Potentially, it's just expensive, man. To create your own independent marketplace, there's a lot of technical debt that goes into that. There's a lot of investment that happens, and it also means you are trying to bring people away from other parties and going exclusively into your own ecosystem. So for the CyberKongs, et cetera, for their ecosystem, they make more direct money because they're not having to go through any third parties to do their launch, et cetera. But uh, I think it's cool. I think there is a lot of merit to it. I, I don't think it's for all future NFT projects.
The only reason that I would kind of go against what you're saying is because I think that while there is a massive amount of tech debt that goes with it, you have to keep in mind how much money these NFT projects are bringing in from just the Genesis launch, just from the initial sale of their NFTs, right? A lot of them are bringing in well above six figures. That's a lot of money to bring in to begin with. But if you can go and find the right builders in the space to build a marketplace, I know a group that's actually onboarded and fully built out a marketplace over the course of about a month and a half,
It's
fully
fast.
Web3 enabled, fully secure, ready to roll. And in fact, it's going to roll out here probably in the next 3 weeks once the project mints out. Their entire, pitch for the last like 4 or 5 weeks is as soon as this mints out, we're launching the marketplace in 24 hours as soon as that's done. So to me, like, I mean, I think it's something that if there eventually is like a white label project that we can have out here for projects to just basically say, I'd like to white label your marketplace code and implement it with my NFT collection, that marketplace code base is going to get absolutely lit up with subscribers who are willing to pay that fee to have an onboarded marketplace. That could be a huge route that we see develop. But you also have so much benefit of getting something like this up on board because immediately you're going to start creating more generic sales right within your own collection on that platform, which means that royalties are going to go back to the team. So it could theoretically pay itself off over the course of its first year.
Yes. The other part of it, though, that I think is also just a huge risk is just the security piece of it, right? So even the model that you just described, that sounds great. We can white label some stuff, but if something goes wrong, I'm not going after your white label price. I'm going after you. So, I mean, not to take away from the fact that yes, that can work and it absolutely could be huge. I just want to go back to, you know, Unfortunately, a lot of smart contracts aren't so smart and aren't built smart, and it's important that whoever's building all this out, they're keeping security at the utmost. Because I mean, think about that, man. Like, why wouldn't I don't have to go to OpenSea anymore? I can go at your marketplace all day and figure out how to crack that code. And if I do, now I got you know all of this supply, and like you can't go blame some third party like OpenSea or whatever. I come directly at you and say, "Hey, what happened here?"
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, like there are so many moving pieces to something like this, but I mean, at a certain level, you have to understand like where the liability is if you're willing to build something like that out. Like, I don't think that any of these projects have just decided to build out marketplaces all willy nilly and just decide, okay, well, now they can do it for free and like that's it. I'm pretty sure that each of them, with the amount of capital that they bring in, have spent the actual time, money, and resources to consult legal. So I
Yeah.
don't know if we're gonna see that really break down, but I think the security argument is still something really important because people don't recognize this enough. You need to be actively removing your connections from certain sites, you know? And that's why we have this brilliant graphic up on the cryptocurrent Twitter account that you can go and refer to for wallet management practices. I managed to onboard that for us in the last week or so, and it's going to be up on the Twitter account here shortly. But it breaks down the idea that you need to have some anywhere between 2 to 5 wallets based on your risk tolerance, and determine, okay, like one of these is a hot wallet. I'm willing to have it connected to other things, but I'm not willing to put a ton in it. Then you need to have a secondary wallet that is your vault. That's not connected to anything. That's just where you send all the tokens and NFTs that you straight up are not planning on moving in the short term. If you can do that, you're set up for success into the future because even if, God forbid, you start connecting to the Chimpers marketplace and it gets breached, and all of a sudden you have a certain amount of tokens over there that can get pulled out, you're not fully getting rugged. You're not taking a complete loss because your top chimpers are over in that ice, the super cold wallet. That's just part of the way that I think about it. But I think that that is enough of a deep dive into security for one day. Don't you think?
Yeah, that's a good recall. And everyone, the only reason we bring this up is again, we you got to protect yourself. You're the bank. You are your own resource. You have to make sure that these amazing things that you are purchasing doesn't get taken from you. And unfortunately, it happens all the time. They reported this year, um, I think a couple $1 billion in crypto scams in 2021, and number 2 was, for romantic, partners overseas where they're like, "Hey, I'm in trouble. Can you send me crypto to help me get out of trouble?" And I thought that was really interesting.
Oh my God, those poor Nigerian princes. That's too funny. Well, look, that is going to wrap up this week's Aftershock. Again, we really appreciate you coming around and hanging out with us for this show every week, every single Wednesday. Um, these shows are just a small dose of the wonderful programming that we put on over here every single Monday and Friday. We also drop interviews with some of the new thought leaders who are shaping the future of Web3, as well as we have tons and tons of editorial content over at crypto-current.co. So please go check that stuff out. And if you're really enjoying our content, excuse me, please do me a solid and make sure you write us a review over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It would be greatly appreciated. And of course, over here on YouTube, if you're joining us for the video content, please feel free to leave a comment. We'd love to know what you think of the show and what you think of us. So make sure that you're doing that. It is a huge help to the show. Rich, who did you have on the podcast this week for interviews?
So Monday, we had Teef, who's a senior brand ambassador at Solar. Um, they are paving the way for sustainable decentralized payments using their network, and it's really interesting all of the different ways that they are incorporating unique ways to have a more fluid payment method through your day-to-day operations. And then Friday, we have Shaban Shame, who is the founder and CEO of Ever Dream Soft, and have a really good conversation around Ever Dream Soft's spells of Genesis gaming economy and all the different types of games they're building within their ecosystem.
So safe to say there's a lot of really great content out there on our platforms across all of our social medias where you can find it. You can, of course, reconnect with me after the show at Steve Miller underscore PHX. You can connect with Richard at Richard Carthon. But that is going to do it for this week's Aftershock. We appreciate you being here. We hope you'll come back next time for your update and connection to Web3. Until then, stay cryptocurrent. We'll see you next time.